Hi, I'm Jess and I run the Black Unicorns reading group, which kind of goes between Lighthouse in Edinburgh and Categories Books in Glasgow, back when we were allowed to have book clubs in person. And since lockdown began, we've been doing a virtual reading group for folks who are outside Scotland as well to join in. And it's specifically a book club for Black queer people, and we read Black queer writing. And one of the first books that we talked about in the group was Pet by Akwaeke Emezi. And this is a gorgeous YA novel that kind of delves into the idea of revolution as a constant thing, and the idea that you don't just reach utopia when you've had all this radical change. You have to continue working towards a future that you want to see. And yeah, just the way that they write about that concept to be accessible for young readers is really interesting, and I recommend this for all ages. Another book that we read a couple of months ago was Lote by Shola von Reinhold, and this is Shola's debut novel. I mean, this book is so huge, it's so full of beauty and magic, and it's hard to summarize it, but I think if you like the way that someone like Ali Smith writes about art and puts it in a social context, then you would really, really enjoy this book. It's bizarre in so many places, it's really it's experimental, and it's just beautiful, beautiful writing. So another book we read in book club was Patsy by Nicole Dennis-Benn. Patsy is one of those books that you want to keep reading, you want to finish, because you're kind of waiting for something good to happen to its main character finally. Like it really gets you in the heart like that. And it's about migration, it's about sexuality, and it's about being undocumented, and all of these complicated things that intertwine to each other. It starts in Jamaica and it moves to New York City, and it's just an amazing book. We also read Rainbow Milk by Paul Mendez, which came out in April, so kind of just at the beginning of lockdown, and it was a delight to be able to focus on a new book like that just needs a bit more kind of support when the usual sort of launches aren't happening. And I think Paul had a really interesting time of launching this book because it's so brilliant. I mean, it's been referred to as being a book about religion and masculinity, and it's all of those things, but it's also one of the most just sexually liberating books that I've ever read. And the way that Paul writes is really engaging, and yeah, it's just an amazing, amazing book. And Paul's a great guy. We very, very recently read at the Bone by Jaqueline Woodson, which is quite a small book, but within very few pages, Jaqueline manages to completely tear you apart, in a way, in a way that's like quite shocking, because you're not expecting it from such a small book. But there are so many characters in here and family members, and you get a really good sense of the depth of their lives and how they all connect to each other. So I really recommend this book as well. And our next book, which we're reading in October, we wanted to read something a little bit spooky and gothic. So we're reading The Confessions of Frannie Langton by Sara. I haven't read this book yet, so I can't tell you my thoughts on it, but I can tell you that everybody I know who's read it has told me that I need to get on that immediately. So I'm really excited to read The Confessions of Frannie Langton. And if you're interested in queer gothic stories set during slavery, then maybe you should read it too. Thanks.